568 AD. Before this year, 200,000 Lombardians invaded and entered Italy to dispossess the Emperor of the East, expel Christianity, and introduce paganism. There were many prodigious fiery battles fought in the air, with blood springing out of the earth and walls. The Lombardians celebrated their victory with grand feasts and rituals. In the third year of Tiberius Constantine, at noonday, there was a terrible earthquake which demolished Daphne and many houses in Antioch, causing widespread devastation and panic among the people. The same year, a fire was seen to run through the sky, an omen that struck fear into the hearts of many. At this time, says Verona, the people of France, lying near the Liga and Radan, were almost swallowed up by inundations from great rains which poured down incessantly for 20 days together, causing immense suffering and loss. Before these rains, fiery battles mixed with blood were seen in the sky over Italy. 571 AD, on September 24th, there was a prodigious slaughter of waterfowls in a fight. Following these fiery battles, heavy rains and inundations swept through the land, causing widespread devastation and chaos. The skies wept as the earth trembled under the weight of the deluge. 581 AD, a great corruption of the air in Italy. Famine and mortality followed. 583 AD, a great plague in France, wherein the king's 2 sons and queen perished. The devastation was immense, altering the course of history. In the year 588 AD, during the reign of Emperor Mauritius, Italy, and particularly Rome, was overwhelmed by a catastrophic flood. This disaster affected not only the people but also the cattle, plunging the region into a state of utter wickedness and filthiness. It was believed that God sent several judgments upon them, the first being a relentless rainstorm. This torrential rain fell continuously for many days throughout the months of September and October. The incessant rain caused the rivers and lakes across Italy to swell, leading to unprecedented floods. These floods overflowed their banks, drowning an immeasurable number of people and cattle, causing widespread devastation. The river Tiber, in particular, swelled to such an extent that it inundated all the low-lying fields, creating what seemed like a second deluge, especially devastating the city of Rome. The Tiber's waters rose so high that in some places it reached the city's high walls, and in others it overflowed them entirely, breaching the city's defences. The water rushed in with such ferocity that it damaged and defaced the majority of the buildings situated near the river, leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. When the floods finally receded, the fields were left so soft and covered with slime and mud that they could not be tilled or sown, leading to a widespread famine that affected the entire region. The floodwaters not only demolished many grand buildings and ancient monuments, but also infiltrated the church granaries, carrying away thousands of measures of wheat, exacerbating the famine. In the following year, 589 AD, the river brought down countless serpents, including a monstrous one as large as a great beam, adding to the terror of the aftermath. These serpents, upon reaching the sea, were choked, and their carcasses washed ashore, where they rotted, creating a new source of contamination. The stench from the rotting carcasses, combined with the slime, mud, and excessive moisture, corrupted the air, leading to a devastating inguinal plague that spread across Italy, Spain, and France. This plague raged with such intensity that it decimated many towns. Even in areas where it was less severe, 2/3 of the population perished. The plague was most severe in Rome, but Liguria and the Venetian territories also suffered greatly, not only from the plague, but also from the preceding floods and famine. The relentless rain was accompanied by a tremendous tempest of thunder and lightning, adding to the chaos and fear experienced by the people during this catastrophic period. Pope Pelagius II died of this plague on February 7th and was succeeded by Gregory the Great on February 28th, 590 AD. Gregory wrought a great reformation in Italy, bringing about significant changes that would shape the future of the region. His leadership marked a pivotal moment in history. Gregory's influence extended beyond Italy, impacting the broader Christian world and leaving a lasting legacy. 590 AD, this being the 8th year of Mauritius, the Byzantine emperor, when the French king was hired to drive the Lombards out of Italy, they were frightened in their march with 2 nights of prodigies and strange occurrences. Streamers shined brightly from the north, and from the east and west, clouds looked crimson as blood, an ominous sign. The 3rd night at 2 p.m, they appeared again, opening the whole of heaven, and gathering to a clear cloud in the middle of the sky. The Lombards besieging Rome, being frightened with continual rains and tempests, were obliged to desist with inestimable loss of men and cattle, and a furious and destructive plague followed, devastating the land. 592 AD was marked by a great drought from January 3rd to September, attended with a very grievous famine and great swarms of locusts, which for 2 years ate up every green thing, causing a terrible famine in Italy. But they continued 5 years in Capitoeo, then shifted to another province, leaving behind a trail of devastation. Eventually the land began to recover, and life slowly returned to normal.
The year was 568 AD, a year that marked not the passing of seasons but the shattering of an age. It was a time when the echoes of the past reverberated through the crumbling ruins, a stark reminder of what once was and what had been lost. Across Europe, from the sun-drenched shores of the Mediterranean to the mist-shrouded forests of the north, a continent trembled on the precipice. The lands were rich with history, yet burdened by the weight of uncertainty and fear. The Western Roman Empire, once a titan of civilization, had crumbled into dust. Its grand architecture, now in decay, stood as silent witnesses to the empire's former glory and its inevitable decline. Only whispers remained of its former glory. The inscriptions on the walls, once vibrant and full of life, now faded and barely legible, told tales of a bygone era. In its place, a patchwork of kingdoms, volatile and ambitious, wrestled for dominance. These new rulers, eager to carve out their own legacies, clashed in brutal battles, each one more ferocious than the last. The old world was gone. A new and brutal one was being born. This transformation was not gentle, it was marked by bloodshed and strife, as the old ways were violently uprooted to make way for the new. From the east, a storm gathered. Dark clouds loomed on the horizon, signaling the approach of something ominous and unstoppable. The Lombards, a fierce Germanic tribe, descended upon Italy like wolves upon a wounded stag. Their ferocity and determination were unmatched, and they left a trail of destruction in their wake. Their arrival heralded an era of unparalleled chaos. Battles raged. Cities burned. The once stable regions of Italy were thrown into turmoil as the Lombards sought to establish their dominance. The very earth itself seemed to groan in protest. The land, scarred by conflict and natural disasters, seemed to cry out in pain. It was a time of heroes and villains, of saints and sinners. Each day brought new tales of bravery and treachery as individuals rose to the challenges of their time, but above all it was a time of survival. People fought not just for power or glory, but for their very lives as the world around them became increasingly hostile. The years that followed, from 568 AD to 592 AD, would be etched in blood and fire. These were years of relentless conflict, where the flames of war consumed everything in their path. Natural disasters of unimaginable fury tore at the fabric of existence. Earthquakes shattered the land. Entire towns were reduced to rubble, and the survivors were left to pick up the pieces. Comets blazed across the sky. These celestial events, seen as omens, filled the hearts of the people with dread and wonder. Plagues, swift and merciless, stalked the land, leaving countless corpses in their wake. The air was thick with the stench of death, and the living were haunted by the fear of the unseen enemy. These were not mere misfortunes, whispered the people. They were omens, signs that the world was on the brink of something catastrophic, something beyond human comprehension. Signs of a world in torment, a world abandoned by God. The people in their despair believed that they had been forsaken, left to face the horrors of their time alone. This is the story of those years. a tale of resilience and endurance, of how humanity struggled to survive in the face of overwhelming odds. A chronicle of courage and despair, of faith and madness. It is a testament to the human spirit which, even in the darkest of times, refused to be extinguished. A tapestry woven from the threads of history, legend and nightmare. Each thread tells a story, each story a piece of the larger picture of a world in flux. Prepare yourself, reader, for you are about to enter a world consumed by darkness, a world where the line between reality and nightmare is blurred, and where the past and present collide in a tumultuous dance of chaos and change. They came from the north, a tide of iron and fury unstoppable in their advance. The Lombards, a Germanic tribe with a thirst for conquest, surged into Italy with relentless determination. Led by the ruthless King Alboin, they were a force of nature unleashed upon the land. Their arrival was a thunderclap, a cataclysm that shattered the fragile peace of the region. Towns and villages were put to the torch, leaving nothing but ashes. Fields lay trampled and barren, devoid of life. The screams of the dying echoed across the ravaged landscape, haunting the survivors. The Lombards were warriors born, bred for battle. They fought with a ferocity that chilled the blood of their enemies. Their swords, long and double-edged, tasted the blood of countless defenders, unyielding in their quest. They carved a bloody path through the heart of Italy, leaving destruction in their wake. No city, no fortress could withstand their onslaught, their power unmatched. The once mighty Roman legions, now a shadow of their former selves, were swept aside like wheat before a scythe. From the Alps to the Apennines, the Lombards spread like a wildfire, consuming all in their path. Their conquest was swift and brutal, leaving no room for mercy. Cities that had stood for centuries fell in ruins, their glory days long gone. The very fabric of society unraveled. Families were torn apart, never to be whole again. Refugees clogged the roads, their faces etched with terror and despair. Italy, once the heart of an empire, was now a battleground, a land of chaos. The Lombard invasion was not merely a change of rulers, but a seismic shift. It was a cataclysm that would reshape the destiny of Italy forever. It was the death knell of an old order and the birth pangs of a new and uncertain age. The year is 570 AD, a year etched in the annals of history as a time of unparalleled terror. In the ancient city of Antioch, nestled on the eastern edge of the Roman world, disaster struck with the swiftness of a viper's strike. It began with a low rumble, a tremor that sent shivers through the very foundations of the city. The people of Antioch, accustomed to the occasional tremor, initially paid little heed to the subtle vibrations beneath their feet. But this was no ordinary quake. The earth itself convulsed violently, as if possessed by some malevolent force. Buildings swayed and groaned, their stone bones pushed to the breaking point. Walls crumbled, towers toppled. The once proud structures of Antioch, symbols of its strength and resilience, were reduced to rubble in mere moments. The screams of the terrified mingled with the roar of collapsing masonry. Panic spread like wildfire as people scrambled to find safety, their faces etched with fear and desperation. The earth bucked and writhed, tossing people into the air like rag dolls. Streets that had once been bustling with life were now scenes of chaos and destruction. Dust choked the sky, turning day into a suffocating twilight. The sun, once a beacon of hope, was obscured by a thick veil of debris, but the horrors of that day were far from over. As the ground finally began to settle, the people of Antioch looked to the heavens, hoping for some sign of reprieve. As the earth stilled, a new terror unfolded in the heavens. The sky, once a canvas of serene blue, was now a theater of dread. Fiery streaks, like the claws of some celestial beast, raked across the sky. These were not ordinary meteors, but harbingers of doom, their fiery trails a testament to the chaos that had been unleashed. Comets, trailing plumes of smoke and fire, blazed through the heavens, their light casting grotesque shadows upon the ruined city. The night sky, once a source of wonder, had become a harbinger of fear. To the survivors, huddled amidst the wreckage, it seemed as if the very stars themselves were falling from the sky. Their world had been turned upside down, and the heavens offered no solace. The earthquake that shattered Antioch was more than just a natural disaster. It was a cataclysm that shook the very core of human existence. It was a harbinger of the chaos to come. The people of Antioch, once confident in their dominion over the earth, were now acutely aware of their vulnerability. A stark reminder that even in the face of nature's fury, humanity was but a fragile and insignificant thing. The events of that fateful day would be etched into the collective memory of the survivors, a testament to the power of the earth and the fragility of human life. The year 571 AD dawned upon a world already reeling from war and natural disaster. The land was scarred, the people weary, and hope seemed a distant memory. Yet, amidst the ruins and the echoes of battles fought, a new and more insidious threat began to emerge. But a new and more insidious threat lurked on the horizon. It was not a foe that could be fought with swords or shields, nor could it be reasoned with or bribed. This enemy was invisible, silent, and deadly. An unseen enemy, silent and deadly, began to stalk the land. Its name, Plague. The plague crept into villages and towns, unnoticed at first, like a shadow in the night. It began slowly, a whisper of sickness carried on the wind. The first signs were subtle, almost dismissible. A cough here, a fever there, but soon the whispers grew louder and the sickness more pronounced. A fever burning hot, yet leaving the victim chilled to the bone. The afflicted would shiver uncontrollably, their bodies racked with chills even as their skin burned with an unnatural heat. Aches racked the body, turning muscle to fire. And then, the buboes. The pain was excruciating, as if the very bones were being twisted and broken from within. Black swollen pustules, oozing with a foul-smelling pus, erupted on the victim's body. These buboes were the most terrifying and unmistakable sign of the plague's presence, a sure sign of the plague's gruesome touch. The sight of these pustules struck fear into the hearts of all who saw them, for they knew that death was near. Death, when it came, was a merciful release from unimaginable suffering. The agony of the plague was such that many prayed for the end, welcoming death as a friend rather than an enemy. The plague spread with terrifying speed. It spared no one. The disease moved like wildfire, leaping from person to person, village to village, leaving devastation in its wake. Rich and poor, young and old, all fell before its invisible scythe. The plague knew no boundaries, no social classes. It was a great equalizer, bringing down kings and peasants alike. Cities, already struggling to rebuild from the chaos of war, were transformed into charnel houses. The streets, once bustling with life, were now filled with the dead and dying. The stench of death hung heavy in the air. It was a smell that permeated everything, a constant reminder of the ever-present spectre of mortality. The cries of the dying echoed through deserted streets. The once lively towns were now ghostly echoes of their former selves, filled with the sounds of suffering and despair. Those who were spared the plague's touch were left to grapple with the overwhelming horror of it all. Survivors were haunted by the memories of lost loved ones and the fear that the plague might return. Fear, like a suffocating blanket, settled over the land. People were afraid to leave their homes, afraid to speak, afraid to hope. People spoke in hushed tones. Conversations were filled with dread and uncertainty, as no one knew who might be next. Neighbors avoided each other's gaze. Trust was eroded, and the sense of community that once held villages together began to disintegrate. The very bonds of society, already strained by war and famine, began to fray. The plague tested the limits of human endurance and compassion. The plague of 571 AD was a stark reminder of humanity's vulnerability. It showed how fragile life was and how quickly everything could be taken away. It was a force beyond comprehension, a scourge that swept across the land, leaving behind a trail of unimaginable suffering and despair. The plague was a dark chapter in history, a time when the world seemed to teeter on the brink of oblivion.